Uhuru, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another edition of Beyond the Boundaries. My name is Alex Morley. Um, I'm the chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, and I also head up the Front for the African International for the Caribbean and South American region. Welcome to Beyond the Boundaries. My name is Alex Morley. On this show, we try to give you news and analysis from the African nation and from the international socialist movement. Brothers and sisters, I'm going to get straight into it. Today is September 8th, 2019, and we're in Nassau, Bahamas, and there's a lot of issues there's a couple of issues that I want to talk about. So the first thing, brothers and sisters, as you know, the Bahamas was hit by Hurricane Dorian. So most of the issues have been concerned, have been revolved around Dorian and trying to assist as many people as possible. Brothers and sisters, but I just want to give some information that I received this week. I went to two meetings this week. One was on Wednesday, September 4th, at the National Training Agency, and that was held by the committee that the government has put in charge to deal with the relief effort and this whole the situation that we find ourselves in after the hurricane. To try to assist persons in Abaco and in Grand Bahama. So that meeting was held on Wednesday, and basically the committee basically laid out their plan. What they have done, they have formed as they would call them, cluster groups, and and each one of these cluster groups deals with a certain area within this whole operation. And what they're asking people to do, persons who want to assist uh, individuals, persons from outside, persons from inside, if they want to assist, select which group, which cluster group your assistance would fall under, and then contact NEMA. NEMA is the body. NEMA is one of the central agency that is dealing with this whole relief operation. But select the particular cluster group that your organization best fits under, and then contact NEMA. And when you're contacting them, the group that you would need to tell them that you can assist through, you would have to define that group. So these were the groups, the cluster groups as they would call them, brothers and sisters. And this meeting took place on Wednesday, September 4th. Now at this meeting, brothers and sisters, there were I would say over at least 200 to 250 persons, a lot of NGOs, a lot of NGOs, different persons are here in the Bahamas at this moment. I would say the room was filled up with majority Bahamians, but definitely you had about 50 or so persons from outside of the country as well, which is we're going to talk about those issues a little bit more. But the meeting itself, they set out they gave people these cluster groups, and they identified the different leads, head persons of these cluster groups for persons to be able to contact. But the cluster groups, brothers and sisters, and the groups are called, if you hear me use the term ESF, that's Emergency Support Function Group. That's what they're called. That's what the cluster groups are called, Emergency Support Function Groups. So first cluster group was ESF1, that deals with transportation. Then they have ESF2, that deals with communication. Um, and each area, brothers and sisters, like ESF1, transportation. This group deals with facilitating the infrastructure so that things can move from point A to point B. So I think the names himself kind of explain what the groups are all about. But ESF1 is transportation, ESF2 is communications, ESF3 is public works and transportation, ESF4 is international assistance, not in no particular order, but I have ESF 13 because this is how they were giving them out that evening. And the meeting was in that evening on Wednesday at about 4 or 5 o'clock. ESF 13 deals with volunteers. ESF 5 deals with planning and information. ESF 6 deals with the shelters, management of shelter services. ESF 7 deals with relief supplies and distribution, and this was a group that I was interested in terms of, I know a lot of groups right now are trying to get supplies and food together, and they want to be able to get these goods to these islands. ESF 7, which is headed by NEMA. NEMA is the lead agency for ESF 7. This is the group that seems to be a cluster group that I know a lot of people are going to be interested in. And ESF 8 deals with health and medical services. ESF 9 deals with urban search and rescue. ESF 10 is emergency support functions. ESF 11 deals with the food. ESF 12, they actually have a group, tourism, to make sure that the message gets out there that the Bahamas is still open. How the gentleman said it that evening, we have our 2 islands, but we have lots more to explore. Craziness. That's not the right word to use, but you understand what I'm saying. But ESF 13, animal care, brothers and sisters. ESF 13, animal care. Right. So basically, and so those were the emergency support groups. Those were the different support cluster groups that they identified. They identified the different head persons, and if persons want to assist, if one wants to assist, one would have to identify the group, the cluster group one organization would fall under. Contact NEMA, and I would advise one to be patient as possible. Contact NEMA, but when you're contacting them, you're identifying your organization, and you would also be identifying which one of these cluster groups your organization would best fit under. The other things that came out of that evening on Wednesday, brothers and sisters, that and this is on Wednesday, a lot has happened since Wednesday in terms of the efforts. Private citizens, people from around the world, Africans from around the world, a black college, different people have assisted, internally, private citizens internally have assisted, and generally that's the people trying to help each other. But right now, it was said at that meeting that right now they are still in the search and rescue phase, brothers and sisters. I think persons have seen the things on social media. At this point, we don't know the death count. We have some places where they're saying just bodies are being found. So I don't want to report on any death counts at this time because I don't know any official numbers. What also happened at that meeting, they informed the persons at the meeting about the ports, the airports and the seaports. At that meeting, it was basically said that those ports had limited access. That was the limited operational access. I think that was the phrase that was used. But as I said, brothers and sisters, since time has passed and social media, people crying out, saying things are not things are not moving right. I think other things are being done. So I know that from this meeting to Wednesday, hopefully things have definitely gotten better. But we need to make sure that we rescue our people. What else? The only thing, and then afterwards in the meeting, brothers and sisters, there was a question and answer period where persons came up and they were able to say their different, put their different questions to the panel. The only thing I would say, some, and this is not a big thing, but some of the persons suggested that that more of the information should be sent around WhatsApp. I don't think that's necessarily. I think, natural disaster one on one, and I think there should be a physical center, a physical space that people could actually meet. And I don't think it's about controlling the information, but you just need a physical space, and meetings where you bring people together, where you're able to disperse information, where information can come in and it can be dispersed. I think that's the best way to kind of make sure that we doing this in the best efficient way. And like I say, it isn't about control to me, But that was one of the issues people were saying, how we should put out more. That NEMA should use WhatsApp more. But I also understand that a lot of the things that we know what is going on with our people right now is through social media and is through WhatsApp. So I appreciate that as well. So brothers and sisters, so that's one of that's a meeting on Wednesday that happened on Wednesday, September 4th. I just want to say about that meeting, brothers and sisters, these kind of natural disasters expose. I want to say about the situation. These natural disasters expose countries for what they are exactly. When we call ourselves a nation, what exactly is this nation comprised of? What exactly are the assets of this nation? I think one of the issues that what are the national assets of this national collective assets of this nation. I think one of the issues that is clearly exposed within this whole disaster, this Hurricane Dorian issue, is that our islands, this archipelago, these 700 keys and reefs are disconnected. We are disconnected, and we are disconnected because essentially transportation, moving the Africans around, moving the African people, moving the people around, but moving the African people around is not essentially the main concern of the island, of the country, of the nation. We should have, it shows us, these incidents shows us that we, and not that we don't need help from other people, but we don't have a system in place that organizes us in a way that we have sufficient fleets of boats, sufficient fleets of helicopters, sufficient fleets of all the vessels that it would take, national vessels that it would take to rescue our people in these times, because the country itself is not about primarily moving the African people around, and it exposes exactly what is it that what is it that we find as a nation, and when we say that we are a nation. So that's one of the things I wanted to say, brothers and sisters, and one of the other things that comes out of these kinds of issues, these natural disasters, they say in the Bahamas, money buy land, money buy land. It brings out that contradiction, because before the natural disaster, the day before the hurricane, we had the contradiction that there was a certain inequality, a deep inequality in this country between the African working class, and the petty bourgeoisie on the white, the white ruling class, and that still remains one of the demands that we need throughout this whole issue. Is that there should be a demand for equal distribution of aid that's going on. But money buy land in this country, and that's what our Grammy them, that's what our people them used to say, and it just says that the country itself, if you don't have money, people treat you, they could treat the workers in a certain way, the little man in a certain way. But we have to build a party where the African working class rise to the ascendancy to take state power in this country and build this country in the right way to resolve the problems in the interest of the African working class nationally and internationally. And us African people in this country taking control, using all the national resources to take control of transportation so that we could have a fleet of helicopters, a national fleet of boats, a national fleet of variety of ships and vessels, so that we could be able to save our people in these kinds of needs, and for just transportation, moving our people effectively around 365 days of the year. That's what we need to work on. But that's the kind of things that the African People's Socialist Party is all about, brothers and sisters. There was a second meeting, brothers and sisters. This meeting was on Friday evening at the Haitian Embassy, brothers and sisters. And this meeting basically was a meeting that comprised of some human rights organizations, the organization of Haitian Bahamians, and an organization of the League of Haitian Pastors. Some of the issues, basically, brothers and sisters, they were basically, the issue that they were raising was saying that they saying that it seems as if some people are more concerned about getting Bahamians out first. Now, that's not to say there isn't a great support, a drive coming out there from the little man and even from some big man. That's great. That's great. But that still doesn't take away from the fact, like I say, we live in a country where there are certain inequalities that existed before this hurricane and will exist during this hurricane. But the issue that was coming out of that meeting, the main issue that was that the Africans from Haiti, that community that was that's in the Bahamas, that has been historically marginalized, that has a large population in Abaco, in the places like the Mud and the Pigeon Peas, that those groups that marginalization continues even during this relief process. And they wanted they're meeting to see how best that they can resolve that, you know. And I applaud those brothers and sisters. And what I want to say about that is that I think that this is the perfect time for all of the African-centered people to raise up the flag of one Africa, one nation. It should be a demand for equal distribution of aid for all African people, for all people, straight through off the board. We stand united with all African people, with all our people, with all people in general should get aid, but there should be equal distribution of assistance to our people. So I just want to say that we stand in solidarity with the Africans from Haiti and their push to make sure that all of their family members are rescued and put in a safe place. Brothers and sisters, the third thing I want to say, the Royal Navy is here, and the Coast Guard is here. There's some in this country who believe that one can't have principled relationships with other nations, meaning that because I am an anti-imperialist, because we constructively criticize UK or the US, we call out their parasitism, we call out the parasitic relationship that they have with Africa and African people around the world. We call out the treatment of how Africans may be treated in the U.S. We call out Great Britain's history in Africa, in places like Kenya and Ghana. But we are about building principled relationships, taking a principled stance. And when you build about establishing principled relationships, brothers and sisters, and when you are on a strong foundation, you not only take that stand for you and for the self-determination of us as African people, collective self-determination of us as African people, but you also know that internally, within inside the belly of the beast, not within inside those countries, that there are people who believe in the same things that you believe in. Every war, that imperialist war, there is a portion of the army and the veterans who go in the streets, and they're part of anti-war movements, and they say they call out those are citizens in those countries calling out their own countries for their own imperialist agenda. So, brothers and sisters, we can't be let those voices out there tell us that we can't have principled relationships because we are accepting aid from persons that mean that we can't be anti-imperialist. That's not true, brothers and sisters. In those places, there are people who are fighting for democracy. In the UK, there's the whole Pan African movement. I know the UK. In the UK, it's the whole Pan African movement. It's the whole Labour movement. It's the Morning Star. It's the Socialist Workers Party. Is the Communist Party, the anarchist movement, the environmentalists, the people who support the struggle for Venezuela, the people who support the struggle in Colombia. Is those 1 million people who when the U.S. and Great Britain was going into Iraq, those 1 million people who marched on Hyde Park, 1 million people. Brothers and sisters, that's what we fighting for. That's the principles. That's who we trying to establish. That's the principles that we trying to build. You see, grounded principles that based on humanity, because we know that we on the right principle, and it be on such good ground, firm ground, that people inside those citizens inside those nations fighting for those things as well. We just have to build those proper international links, brothers and sisters, and that's what we all about. So don't let people talk you down about making principled relationships, because that's what we all about, and that's what the African People Solidarity Committee all about. That's the strategic purpose, because we know there's a bunch of European people out there who want to assist, who may, and there's a lot who have to be educated, just like our African people. All of us have to take part in raising the consciousness of our people. But there's some Europeans out there who want to play a part in the process of the Black Power movement, of the African liberation movement, and we have a vehicle within the African People's Socialist Party for Europeans to play a part, to make a principled relationship with African people, to fight for the liberation of Africa, to transform this world, and that's the African People's Solidarity Committee. So don't let people talk you down about forming relationships, principled relationships with people, man. The demand should be for equal distribution of aid, and we just appreciate the help that we are getting, but we fighting for a new world. We could call out imperialism and build principled relationships with people, and be ourselves. People who don't understand that is because they live a politics. The politics that they promote is a politics of African people on their knees, bowing down, that we can't have our own principle, our own position. We don't believe in that kind of politics. Brothers and sisters, time is on me. Laborstar.org. This is a sports and a little bit sports and a little bit of political story. The Reggae Girls on LabourStar.org. Check it out. After 9 months without pay, women's soccer, the Jamaican women's soccer team goes on strike. And it's a story that's written by Lindsay Gibbs. It's on LabourStar.org. And it's basically talking about the Reggae Girls, the Jamaican soccer team, who are saying that they ain't being, the contract was signed, monies were supposed to be paid, and that has not been, those obligations have not been lived up to, and they feel as if they know that they have been trailblazers in the work that they have done, and they feel as if the Federation, Jamaican Football Federation, is not living up to their obligations. So big up to the Reggae Girls, you know what I mean? Respect to them. Pay those women, please. But I think the first show I did, I spoke about sports, and brothers and sisters, when we calculate, the first show I spoke about sports, and then the second show I spoke about the app, that mobile app that's in Kenya lending money to poor African people in Kenya. And I spoke about how the basis for those apps are in California. Brothers and sisters, when we calculate the money that black culture, African people, our value is in sports, is in culture, is in entertainment, music around the world, of our value that goes into that. And what it is that we are receiving out of that. Because let's take, for example, California, it's not only a state that's built on sports and entertainment and music, but that's one of the industries, and black African people in that nation play a big part of that. So monies are being made in California. That money is being possibly through these banks being used to lend to poor African people. So they're exploiting black people, African people in the U.S., using that money from sports and entertainment, using that money to lend to African people on the continent in Kenya. Then I ain't even want to get to the phones. That's what I even forget. The phones with those mobile companies own. The Congo, brothers and sisters, coltan. Those phones are made up of material that's in the Congo, that's being extracted from the Congo and wrongfully extracted too. There's a war going on in the Congo, and the imperialist governments are still supporting other African governments who are still raiding the Congo. Millions of people have been dying. So we have Africans in the Congo and their resources being exploited. Africans in the U.S. being exploited off of entertainment and relationship. Brothers and sisters, all the value with African people around the world make it. We should have enough money to pay professional and amateur associations around the world, so we could bring up the development, the cultural and social development of African people all around the world. But you know what we need? We need the African nation, so we could unite 2 billion African people around the world and use all of those collective resources and all that labor and that energy. Because when you use all of that, the question of not having enough resources, it totally falls away, brothers and sisters. We have enough resources to raise the cultural and physical and social development of our people, so that we can allow our people to do all the things that they want to do. So that's a little bit of sports. Lastly, brothers and sisters, Hampton University, all the brothers and sisters in Hollywood and throughout the U.S., African brothers and sisters, all the brothers and sisters throughout the world who help, who send money to, who aid, not even money, aid, who have been assisting our people in the way that they can. Respect to Hampton University, respect to the brothers, the African brothers from Hollywood, from the music industry. Respect to them. In the arts and culture, who I should have mentioned in the rap battle world last week. Shotgun Surgeon Calico. I see a fight going on recently. I ain't even want to get into that. But Shotgun Surgeon Calico, those two good brothers, two good rap battlers too. Last thing I want to say, brothers and sisters, and for arts and culture, comedy. Comedy. I see that comedy is making its sticking out its head again. I think in the times when we're going through the most pain, sometimes we just need comedy just to be able to cope with the pain. And I see that David Chappelle has a Netflix series, and that's great. And I see that the king, that's the king from the '90s, Eddie Murphy, coming to America, coming out, the sequel coming out next year, and I could give a whole speech, a whole show on Eddie Murphy. He's a he's a conscious man. I didn't know that when I was young, but I know that now. And I see that he's recently announced that he may be going back. Eddie Murphy has announced that he may be going back on tour. Big up, respect. You know what I mean? I grew up in the '90s, so Eddie Murphy fan, without a doubt. Brothers and sisters. So that's the last thing I want to say. Thank you for watching Beyond the Boundaries with Alex Morley. I'll be here next week at every Sunday at 1 p.m. Just trying to bring you news and information from the African nation and from the international socialist movement. So thank you very much for watching Beyond the Boundaries and the Impidam Convention, brothers and sisters, in St. Louis, Missouri. That's a community announcement. Sorry. I apologize. The Impidam Convention community announcement in St. Louis, Missouri, September 13th and 14th. Don't forget about the Impidam Convention. The struggle is real. We need real science, real solutions. So don't forget about that in St. Louis, Missouri. But again, brothers and sisters, Uhuru, one Africa, one nation. One Africa, one nation. This is Alex Morley for Beyond the Boundaries. I'll be here every Sunday at 1 p.m. Uhuru, one Africa, one nation. Uhuru.